Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Well then, Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City!
Next to it, Anthony Canoca finds Wood. Wood should score. Wood finds Canoca. Yes! In!
Here comes Leicester again with Heskey and Ibbett! Well, this is incredible.
Got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off. Jamie Vardy!
Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube.
Hello and welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's Tuesday night and that can mean only one thing. It's time for Tuesday Night Tactics, the match analysis show. And joined to the Batman to my Robin, it is our favourite ever Danish Leicester City fan. It's none other than Quack Quack. Mr. Duck, how are you?
I'm looking forward to it. It's good to be back. Let's get into it, right? Brilliant game. We played perfectly. Nothing went wrong. Everything went our way. We could have won 5-0, so it'll be all positive today.
I've got a feeling you might be being a bit facetious there in your comments, but we'll get into it. It was a very hard-fought win. We will get into the 1-0, but just before we do, I think as is becoming the norm at the moment in these shows, there's a lot of transfer news. I actually can't wait for the window to be closed just because I think there's a lot to get through. So a lot of comments from you. Evening to everyone who's joined us. Mr. Patao, Kunal, Wolf, and King Leicester. So first big news. We've been talking about it for a while. We said during the summer, if the price was right, we probably should sell James Justin. So he's gone. He went to Leeds. What do you make of this transfer?
Brilliant. I mean, it's great for us, I think. 8 million guaranteed, 2 million in potential add-ons for a player who is, first of all, 27. Second of all, has a contract expiring at the end of the year, right? We've been complaining so much about letting players play out their contract because they're more valuable for the year they're here. Where they're getting, let's just say the guaranteed, £8 million guaranteed. And, I mean, I think he's a decent to good championship fullback. It's nice that he can cover both fullback positions, of course. But if you look back to our past few seasons, has he been standout? He scored some standout goals. You know, the goal against Arsenal, the goal against Cardiff, I believe, the year before. You know, that were in goal of the year contention. But in our promotion season, was he one of the players I thought was core to the team and the system? No. In our relegation bid, was he core there? Yes, because he was one of the reasons we conceded so many goals down his right-hand flank. So he was a core reason why that year went wrong. So to get 8 mil for him, potentially 10, great business.
Yeah, although it does mean we've got fewer people to talk about in the left-back position, which we're going to come to at the moment. There's a lot of transfer news at the moment. So let's move on to the next thing that came up. So, of course, we saw this, right? So for a while, we were getting very excited that we, Leicester, might actually make some kind of transfer. But, of course, as it turned out, no, we didn't. But whilst we were linked to him, what do you think this says? Do you think this says that we are going to sign him? Because he actually has ended up going to Pisa and he's gone there for a loan, but with a 7 million option. And I think that maybe gives us a clue as to like what may or may not be going on in terms of possible transfers. Or do you think I'm just getting a bit too excited?
I think they're looking at something, right? I think it's clear they're trying to wheel and deal, right? Looking for a bargain buy of a player who is a bit down on their luck, who could look to reignite their career here, because we're not going to go out and spend. That's why I think the Ivanovic links wild up there, exciting. They weren't going to happen. I didn't think we had 13 million to blow on a proven great championship striker who's young and could grow a lot more. It will be these, I don't want to say Poundland signings, but where we are getting someone who, isn't perfect, because we can't get the up and coming winger or attacking midfield or striker who's blown away this league. Maybe it's more, either a bit less of an exciting prospect or someone who, 24, 25, who was very exciting, then has had a few bad years of either injuries or falling out with the manager or whatnot, and then we can get them for a cut price deal. But I think someone, hopefully, I'm hopeful at least one signing will be made. on loan or permanently. But it does still depend. It feels like we need just one more outgoing to get a few million at the very least to play with.
Yeah, I think we need a lot more than that. Well, moving on to, of course, your favourite player. Now, he's been linked with them all summer, but it's just come along again. I didn't get the John Percy tweet, unfortunately, but John Percy and Fabrizio Romano even said that there have now actually been active dialogues between Victor Christiansen and Nottingham Forest, which would mean, of course, the only Luke Thomas would be in left back for the rest of the season. But what do you make to
Unless
this
Lugo
news?
takes his place, hopefully,
Well,
right?
he got injured early, but I have to say that for me has been one of the biggest disappointments this season that we haven't seen Badia Luko play, because I thought he was outstanding in pre-season.
Yeah, he looked completely part of the team. What I will say, I did read the full The Athletic article about Nottingham Forest plans where they included this. He's not the first choice for left back, but apparently the choice they want, the guy from Club Brugge, a 20-year-old left back, they've just sold Maxim de Soyber to Brighton. So they apparently the guy they really want was stated as not for sale, but he was their number one target. So I think this is quite realistic. They'll jump down and get him. But yeah, it's been a weird period with him, right? Obviously the ups, the downs, the loan out, the injury now over preseason. We haven't seen him at all, essentially. Yeah. And we don't really know when he's coming back, right? I feel like every week we get told it's a few more weeks at least. So who knows? Who knows if he'll even pass their medicals or if they'll agree on a fee. But I wouldn't mind selling him, but that would mean, in my opinion, we would have to bring someone in for left back.
Well, interesting, because we aren't really making so many sort of signings, but you could well be right.
I will never wear for a shirt.
You better not, otherwise you will be banned from this
I
show.
would never.
Here's an interesting comment from Daniel O'Connor, our Everton fan, I believe. Forrest would be mad to take VK. Surely he needs to go back to Italy. The thing I would say that of all the Premier League teams, I actually think Forest, maybe Everton, he'd probably do a good job in, because for Forest, they don't really attack with their fullbacks, right? They're just there for defensive coverage. And actually, last season, the player that made the most tackles and interceptions from any Leicester player was Victor Christiansen. So I sort of can see why they might go for him, but we will see. Rob Dorset on Sky saying that Forest and Leicester are in talks, but there's a gap in valuation. That's the hold up, and Leicester will demand a good fee. Well, of course he will, but you never know. I think we're only about a week now till the window closes. So
I will say just shortly, we haven't seen him at all in the Championship. I think if he stays and get back from injury, he'll probably end up playing quite a lot. And I don't think he'll be standout. Oh my God, he's the best left back in the league. But he definitely will not be bad for this level. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to the main talking point that everyone's putting in comments. I had to leave the best till last. So it's been quite the roller coaster with Bilal. He was not in a squad at all on the weekend, which I think really affected our game. Then I think everyone assumed that he was off to Palace, right? Because Palace have sold Eze to Arsenal, 60 million. So Bilal was going to be the replacement. Then we're told, okay, from Rob Dorset again, I'm told that Crystal Palace deal for forward Bilal Kounouz has collapsed. Leicester, and here's the bomber, really. Leicester no longer need to sell to satisfy PSR, having sold James Justin and Casey McAteer. It would therefore now take £35 million to prize him away, and Palace won't pay that. So, okay, great. Locks was even posting in the chat going, loves Bilal Kounouz. And then just when we were celebrating, is there another twist in the tale? Because now, I don't know how accurate this is. Now we're coming up with, after negotiations of Crystal Palace failed, West Ham are in advanced talks with Leicester City to sign Bilal Kounouz. However, we are hearing off the radar that that's not really true, although West Ham are putting a lot of bids in for players. So I agree with Darren here. I still think that Bilal will go. And the reason I think he'll go is I think we'll get to deadline day and just one club, it might well be West Ham, but someone who's desperate will just pay like the 35 million.
But do we
I did see that for sub.
Be more if they come in on deadline day. Like if we're gonna leave ourselves short-handed, I'm not expecting Rockin to be capable of getting anyone in if we sell him on deadline day. But I'm gonna be honest, if we then bump the price up another 10 million or 5 million with a better sell-on clause or whatever, I might be able to accept it. I think what really excites me about this is that the guarantee that he's staying. Obviously, it does now seem a real possibility, especially because how reliable is the source from West Ham? What we've known right now from Fossab, right? It's not like ex-West Ham employee doesn't think it's real. I've never seen this source before. It's not Fabricio. It's not Rob. Like it's not any one of the big ones that we're really keeping our eyes on. And we have to remember what was Leicester's transfer identity for these many, many past years where we were successful. It was selling a key asset. But the thing is, for these past few years, we've been forced to sell our key assets for cut price deals because we've not been in a good enough negotiating position. We're obviously not in a brilliant one, but with us now being out of the PSR, or we have to sell, we are in a much, much better position. And it feels nice to know that if he goes, we will at the very least get the fee we deserve for him. And that's a very, very big positive to me.
Yeah. This is interesting. Thank you, but it says Rob Dawson says we want the 35 million upfront, not an installment. And I believe this has been the case all summer. I think even when Sasha Tavolieri was saying, "Oh, it's a simple fee, but there are some complex payment instructions," that was the complexity. Leicester were like, "Look, if you pay it all up front, you can have the player." But none of this crap, none of this. Oh, we'll give you £1 now.
You'll see the rest of the money in 2030, right? And they're like,
yeah, because we want to clear the books. It's like if you want to pony up the old money like a proper release fee, done, fine. But otherwise, we won't. But I mean, yeah, just before we kind of move on to the show, I mean, because I was just thinking about this the other day, right? So last time we were in the Championship, we made a lot of permanent signings, but I forget just how many loan players we got. You're allowed to have 4 loan players: Callum Doyle on loan, Cesare Casadei on loan, Yunus Akgun on loan, and Abdul Fattah was on loan. And I think him and Yunus had, like, if they played a certain amount of games, it turned into a mandatory purchase, which is why we did do with Fattah, and we decided to like not go with Yunus, although that could have been a nice one. So I am, of course, very the overriding thing when we get to the end of this show, Duck, is we absolutely need some refreshments in this squad, right? But think of your head and your heart. Do you think we'll see any new players when we do this show this time next week?
It's too hard to say. I'm not gonna sit here and make a prediction. I think so much can change in a week. I think we are, I want to say, a lot closer than 2 weeks ago, right? Because that statement of being PSR compliant, obviously, is not a statement from the board or anyone, but from a pretty reliable journalist. It should, to me, mean that if 1 or 2 more deals get over the line in terms of outgoings, there should be now able to wheel and deal some, as you say, loans or free agents or something over the line to get at least 1 or 2 players in. I'm not absolutely confident because it feels like we just need that one final tip over the edge to come from PSR compliant to PSR headroom we can play with. But we will see. Again, if we sell Bilal for 35 million, I can guarantee you there will be some incomings before the window closes, right? But if we don't, who knows? If VK goes, then yes, it still relies to me on 1 or 2 more outgoings.
I mean, yeah, for us here, there's a lot of players who could still go. Faz, Okoli, VK, BK, Winks, they could all be gone. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I think we will see players here this time next week. I think they will only be loans. I actually don't think we'll go for any free transfers. The one thing about free transfers is you can still sign them outside of the window. So we could still see Jamie Vardy rock up again on the Zimmer frame 2 weeks' time if he doesn't go in for this foreign move. We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, I think we desperately need it. And I think even if we go for loans, like for example, we were linked with Harry Amas when Van Nistelrooy was here. He could play left back. We might be selling VK as the left back. There's a few we could go in for. But look, we'll obviously talk about that tomorrow on Fox's Den. I'm sure there's a lot of talk about it. But I think we're both agreement. We think we are going to see movement both in and out of the club between now and the end of the window, right? Yeah. All right. So let's move on then to the game. 1-0 to Charlton. So we're having this little game that we played last week, and I thought it was quite fun. So I'm going to play it again with Andreas and for you in chat. So what do you think I'm going to talk about in tonight's show? And I'll give you a hint. This time round, there's one core theme that I'm going to be talking about. So for you, Andreas, for you and Duck, what do you think I'm going to be talking about?
Oh, what could be the core? If I were to think about my main takeaways, I think positively, I was thinking attitude looked to be a lot better. And willingness to run the extra meters. I thought the press, this was the worst game we've seen in terms of our pressing. I felt we had very little success at dominating the game. So maybe you'll focus on domination, and that is a broad term, I know. But I think you get what I'm saying in terms of dominating the ball, dominating the chance creation, feeling like the team who's on top of the game, right? We weren't that for major parts of it, only real small glimpses. And I think you'll
You're
talk
along the
about
right
maybe about
things. You're along the right things. I'm going to give you a clue. I thought you might not get it quite right this time round. Do you know who this is? This is actually an actor from a film, and I'll tell you that the name of the film is today's theme of the show. Anyone in chat as well? Anyone seen this film?
I have no clue, man. How old do you think I am? Has the beard really
Just because it's black and white, it's actually quite a recent film. Well, this is Ian Curtis. He's actually a famous rock and roll star who sadly committed suicide at 23 years old. And the name of the film is Control. So that's all we're going to be talking about today.
That goes a bit close. I want to say to the domination I talked about, right?
Yeah, that's why. I'll give you it. I'll give you the tick. It'll be like the maths homework. You didn't get the final answer, but I looked
give
at
me like
your
a B for that, I'll take that.
Yeah. John Rudkin wishes he looked like that at 21 because he looks cool AF. But there we go. So the thing about Control is that we did not have any control in this game. And if I'm being honest, I would actually go as far as saying I don't think we really had control in any game, maybe other than against Sheffield Wednesday when we were down to 10 men and Harry Winks came on. I think it's a real problem we've got with this team, and I think it's something we have to fix. And it's going to be a tricky one to fix. So looking at the game, there's like no sugarcoating it, right? It's not only that, we were lucky to get the win, but I mean, if you look at the stats, right, we were properly lucky to get the win. They had 20 shots, Charlton, right? 2 big chances. We only had 6 shots the entire game. I don't know how many we had on target, not many. And so you can see that with the XG, they had 3 times the XG that we did. And so basically, we were lucky that we have probably the best player in the championship right now. And they're a team that's just come up.
I'll die on that hill. He is the best player in the championship if you look at, over the course of what he's done here.
Yeah. And don't you worry, there are going to be some hate slides on Nathan Jones. But I think, to be fair, even though I dislike him, he might have had a point to say that they were unlucky not to get something.
They were unlucky not to get something, yeah. The 5-1 statement is absolutely ludicrous, mate. But they were, I don't want to say robbed, but they were unlucky not to walk away with anything from this game.
Yeah. Danky says, I may be harsh here, but I believe it's solely on the midfield being awful. Need better midfielders. Well, that I actually agree with you, but not all of them were awful, but I'm going to cover that just very quickly. But yeah, I agree with you, Fox Fanatics. Our midfield's not too great. So here was our lineup. And of course, the big news was that Bilal El Khanous was not in the squad at all, which we all assumed that was it. He was gone. And so that meant that we ended up with this interesting lineup. Now, fair play to Marty, right? He started with 2 16-year-olds in a Leicester team. So I believe this is the youngest ever lineup.
16 and 17, pages 17.
Yeah, 16 and 17. So you are correct. So you got Jeremy Monga, Lewis Page, starting, not even just coming off the bench, actually starting. And you've got a lot of Leicester lads in there as well. So that was pretty encouraging to see. I think that is brave. I can't really think of a manager in my lifetime in Leicester that would have the balls to do that. Right, yeah, average age of 22, I think.
I think it's the big thing, right? It's something I think we talked about before the season as well, that we will be more willing to accept us not dominating every single game with 80% ball possession, winning 3-0, if that means we're prioritizing the academy, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm counting then the starting 11, all from Leicester Academy. And you can say what you want about Chowdhury and Thomas. I think we all have different opinions and all agree they're probably not the future of this club in terms of if we want to get back where we belong. But, giving faith to Monga, who wholeheartedly deserved it, but also the balls to start Page ahead of other academy prospects, like let's just say Will Alves in the 10 is also a very, very bold move and a statement of intent of where we might be going.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's just like playing Football Manager. If you don't play the young players, they're not going to improve. So that's something that you've got to look out for. As for Charlton, I was actually pretty impressed with their lineup and the way that they played. I think they had a lot of good games. You can see that their entire back four was pretty strong. They definitely bullied our team. Yeah. And I think for a team that a lot of people thought were going to go down, they look pretty good. I think, this championship is already, I think, surprising a lot of people in terms of who's going to be good and who's going to struggle. But coming on to the theme then, so why were we lacking this control? A lot of you guys have put it there already about the midfield, so let's talk about it. So a lot of reasons why. And there are many different points. I'm going to point them out all here and, we can talk about it meantime. So I think something that really sort of annoyed me was just sort of like bozo moments. So here we got Hamza on the ball and he's got a very easy ball here that he can play into Lewis Page. And there's a lot of space here for him to play the ball. But instead he sort of goes for a ball. He's trying to get to Ayew quickly. And I think this is something that we've seen in the game quite a lot, that we're looking to hit Ayew quickly as the false nine. You can see how deep he's dropped. And then for players to run past him. So I'm guessing the idea is here him to control the ball and flick it into the space behind him for Page to run into. But actually what ends up happening is we just lose the ball, right? So this really frustrates me because you're giving away 1 minute 30 into the game. You can do a simple pass into to just get control of the game and dominate. And instead we make a risky pass. The risky pass goes to IU. Charlton employed man-to-man marking. Fair play to Andreas. He pointed out in the stream very quickly on that's what they were doing. And the problem is that not only did they win the ball back, but what are you going to do against Leicester as soon as you win the ball, Duck? What would you do?
You're gonna ping a long ball to your right wing and see if they can beat Luke Thomas 1-on-1.
Absolutely, especially when you've got now Jeremy Monga. That entire left side is the thing of nightmares, Doug. You got Jeremy Monga, you got Oliver Skip on the left-hand side, you got Luke Thomas, and you got Yannick Vestergaard. And no matter how many times I say that, it just absolutely terrifies me. Hit us down the right. Now, to be fair, this time around, Luke Thomas is not out of position. And we'll be covering that at the end. But that was one of the big changes that Marty did in this game, is that he didn't push the team as high up. So we dealt with this problem okay. But that, again, my point is that, if that's Enzo, first 5 minutes is all just about getting control of the game, making sure that you have possession and that you can move the other team back into their half. But we were playing a bit more chaotic, which many of you put in there. Now, as mentioned before, there's also man-to-man marking. Now, this, I think, will be an interesting thing to see going forward. The last time we were in the Championship, the second game we played, I think, was against Huddersfield, and Neil Warnock was in charge. And what Neil Warnock did is he also went man-to-man marking very early on, and they had a very good performance against Leicester, even though we won. But what happened as the season went on is that basically, because we got more familiar with our patterns of play, is that then every team that tries to go man-to-man against us actually got absolutely destroyed.
Yeah,
So,
I want to jump on that point very quickly because I do remember that Huddersfield game very well, right? I think I wholeheartedly agree. I think Huddersfield dealt really well with us, but even then, second game into the season, you could see. I remember a few times where we had the brilliant pattern of play, and we played brilliant. I think maybe 2 brilliant chances were created, because they were man-to-man marking. But other than that, it was very tight. And I think we'll get to with the goal again, right? You see this one of the same glimpses here with how we create the goal because they press very high, want to do man for man, and when we outplay it, well, we create a lot of space for ourselves. But when we don't feel comfortable enough in these patterns of play, it's very risky and can lead to a lot of mistakes.
It's funny you mention this. Who are the leaders in this team? Well, James Justin was our captain for the first game of the season, and he was sold. So I think that's a massive problem we've got in the team right now. And it's just a shame that people like Lewis Page and Jeremy Monga are a bit older. They'd probably be captains already. But anyway, in this example, here's an example of that man-to-man marking. Vestergaard, who had, I think, an overall pretty good game, was very good on the ball again, plays the ball forward. He plays the ball here into Samare, but you can see just how physical and aggressive teams are against us this season. And so the ball gets charged down. So this is into Monga, but Samare's here. And in this case, we managed to get away with it, but it showed you again very quickly on that is what Charlton were trying to do against us, trying to disrupt our ability to play through the lines and play our way out and build. And basically, we struggled with it all game, other than one instance, and that is the one instance Duck is talking about where we did score a goal. We'll cover that later. Now, that is one point of it, right? So we've got man-to-man marking, we've got maybe poor decision-making. But another real obvious flaw, I think, in our team this season is a lack of technical ability. And I have to say, Duck, this is actually the thing that surprised me a lot, because we've paid quite a lot of money for certain players. Samari, 24 million. Skip, 20 million. Caleb Okoli, 15 million. We're against a team here who've just come up from League One. And like, this pitch is pretty pristine. It's not like it's bobbling all over the place, right? So Okoli's on the ball here. He's got plenty of time here to pick out his pass. He dawdles on it. And what ends up happening, he sort of plays a bad ball and he gets robbed. Right? Now, luckily, again, we get away with this. But this is Premier League. And that's Liverpool that steal the ball from you. You know, you're down. So that was bad to say, yeah.
Just shortly. I think this has happened many times throughout the game, especially with Caleb Okoli. I think he's a great defender. I thought he did well defensively. Headers, good block as well later on. That's the reason he scored so highly many of those points up and has gotten himself into the team of the week, which I don't think he deserves because he could have also given up 2-3 goals by his, to be quite frank, horrendous passing this game. I've never been impressed with it, but it's never been this bad and this slow to make a decision. Maybe he has been surprised compared to, the Sheffield Wednesday game where we had so much of the ball that in the second half, he didn't have to be that quick with it, right? Well, when they then wanted to press man for man here, it feels like it caught him off guard that people are really, pressing him and punishing him for taking so long.
Yeah, but he's looked a real concern for me so far this season. And here's another example. So here's Okoli again on the ball, and he's got two options he can go for. He can go for the risky pass, which is a play through the lines. You can see Lewis Page is telling you, play the ball here, I'm going to make the run. Or you can go for the more straightforward pass, which is out here to where the right winger will be. And in this example, he decides to go for that more straightforward pass. And you know what? He still puts it out of play. So again, this is just so frustrating because these are like the basics of football, right? Especially here when he's not really got any. There's a little bit of pressure on him, but come on, for someone who supposedly played in the Serie A, right, and you're playing against, I mean, probably this entire five put together, I bet, don't have the same wages that Caleb Okoli's on. So, look, something that the team's got to work on. Gives the ball away, it means we can't get going, and that's why.
Wout Fast makes that pass, and again, Westergaard makes that pass, right?
Yeah. And here got another example. This was Hamza. Now, I think overall, Hamza actually had quite a good game, right? Again, he was in the team of the week too, but he was in the team of the week for the defensive side. Because again, he's trying to play a ball here into the middle, in through the gap. And there's quite a big gap there, right? To be able to play the ball through. So he plays that ball, but just gives it straight away. I guess he was trying to find Page here, miscues the pass, and the ball ends up in Charlton's again. And, you know, again, he's under no pressure here, right? So he doesn't need to rush that pass. He could take an extra touch if he needs to. I've got nothing against playing a one-touch pass, but then you've got to be able to play that one-touch pass. So, yeah, poor technical ability from some of our players. And the other thing that might have happened as well is, have we been figured out already? Because teams have obviously played against Marty before, right? It's not like against Enzo, where for the first 5 or 6 games, people kind of thought they knew what was going on, but didn't have hours and hours of tape to kind of go through. Now, they do have a lot of examples they can do because he played a very similar way on the QPR. So here we've got Abdul Fattah on the ball. You've also got Lewis Page. I would like to see these two operate a little bit more together. Like, I don't think Fattah played the ball enough into Lewis Page, but I was encouraged by Lewis Page's movement and his off the ball work. That is actually
he was really good off the ball. I thought he's the first player we've really seen commit to making so many of these runs into the half space to try and help the wing out. On both
just
right
hold
and
that
left
thought, because we've got a Lewis Page special, and I'm going to let you talk
Okay.
about it in there, right?
Let's go.
Because I knew you would. I knew you were impressed with him during the game. But just to show here, here's the thing about being figured out. So the ball ends up going back to Samare. You can see that we've got this attacking triangle here, and it's trying to play the ball first time through here to Lewis Page. But is it poor technical ability? Is it? I think it's because Nathan Jones tells you, you know, he knows what the pass is going to be and who you've got to cut out in terms of the blocking. And so in this case, Charlton get hold of the ball, and again, we slowly, not slowly, but we just don't really, you know, manage to dominate and get our foot on the ball, stamp our authority, and start making the other team get back. So, yeah, something to watch out for. I think it can all be worked on, but I am worried. Basically, I do feel that Marty's system at the start of the season, I said to you, I'm no worries, Stark. It's definitely going to work with the players we've got. It will work very well in the Championship. I don't think we're going to have any problems. And spoilers, when we get to the end of the show, that is not what I think right now. Now, one of the main culprits, he's on here every week. It's a bit sad to say, but it's true. And that is Oliver Skipp. And give me your famous quote, Doug, that I think this is becoming the quote of BTG this season. What did you tell me about Oliver Skipp when we came into this season?
I don't know if he will, but he has to be good here.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way around it with what we paid for him, right? You have to be good in the Championship for that fee.
Exactly. And here I've got his stats, and this is, Fox Fanatics calls it out, a waste of time. Now, this is honestly horrific. It in fact, doesn't do enough justice, right? Because if you're a midfielder, and I play midfield, Duck, right? Now, I am a properly rubbish midfielder, but midfielders, you tend to be one of 3 types, right? But the one thing that all midfielders have in common, the reason why you choose to play that position, is because you want the ball. You want to get the ball. You like having the ball. So you go in the middle of the park because statistically, you're going to see it more often. That's how it works, right? Now, you might be one of those players who you're not actually that good on the ball, but you're really good at winning it back. You still want the ball. You just want to get the ball off other people. So you're a defensive midfielder, right? Or you could be a very flary, a technician type of player, an attacking midfielder. You want to make the gameplay to your tune, and you want to ping a ball out here and ping a ball out there, and you want everyone to pass you the ball as many times as possible. That's an attacking midfielder. Or you could be a mixture of the both. You could be a box-to-box midfielder. You're quite good at defending. You're quite good at attacking. You're not really that good at either of them, but because you're quite good at all of it, it makes you a good box-to-box midfielder. But as people are putting in here, right, so much for him being good in the Championship, Conscious, and I'm going to give it to Conscious because Conscious said this, I think, even before game 1. And he said, I am really concerned that about 6 and 8 in this team, we are going to really struggle. He called it before anyone else. So I will give you that. More zeros than this transfer fee. Absolutely agree. And Fox on that. I say one thing, chat. You've got some good dad jokes, and you know I like a good dad joke on this stream. Those numbers are thinner than his hairline. So here's the worst thing about it, right? No key passes, no crosses, no ground duels. What the? How can you be playing in midfield and not getting into ground duels? Only one aerial duel. Possession loss 5 times. This guy's a ghost. That is the problem with it, Duck, right? Is that he's not even getting involved. We're going to come to Lewis Page in a moment. And technically, Lewis Page on his SofaScore rating got a much worse rating. But that just shows you that this is a complete lie, the way that they make the stats up. Because you'll see that he got involved in the game. And Skip, that touch map is just like, he might as well not have been there. That just looks like a graphical flaw. I'll show you some of the things and why that could be. So I did notice in the game that of the midfielders, he does tend to end up being at the base of the pivot when the team moves up. So he finds himself in this position. And that's fair enough. But the thing is, if that's Harry Winks in this position or Ricardo, they will still be able to play these nice line-breaking balls, key passes to find people in space. But you can see here by his body language, he's just going to pass it to the left back, right? So he's just sideways and back. To give him just maybe some credit, despite his lack of physicality, I don't know why this didn't get counted for a ground duel, but there was well, there are 2 good things he did in the match. One was related to the goal. This was the other one. So the ball breaks here, and fair play to him. At least he wants to get involved in this. There's a 50-50 between him and the Charlton player, and he does get to the ball, and he slides to win the ball. But you see, again, the sliding tackle is not really good. Like, if that was Kante, with Kante's acceleration, he gets to the ball, and he keeps it, and he passes the ball. Right, or if that's Wolf, he maybe gets a bit more control. And that was a big problem about spending 20 million on a player who's just 5'7". That's actually the same height as me, but I don't play in the Premier League, so I can get away with it, or the Championship even. But when you're playing at this sort of level, here's a real problem. You all know it, but I think the issue is that, do you know what? I forgot to put it in this slide. I think we'll look at it next time round. I was trying to look at like why he got into the team of the season for Norwich. Right, but this is a huge conundrum for Marty to solve. And the honest answer is he shouldn't be in the team. He shouldn't be in the team. That's the answer. Because with these stats, right, I mean, I would basically just pin this on the wall. I would bring him into my office and I'd say, look, you need to show me something. I don't know what it is, but right now, I personally think to you, like, he cannot play in midfield with this sort of stats.
We're starting the game a player down.
Yes. So for me, maybe you could try him as fullback or something like that, but he can't play like that, right? I don't get why Skipper's that bad. It's crazy. I feel sorry for him. Maybe, but I mean, with the money he's been paid, like, maybe the price tag is getting to him, but you've got to show for the ball more often. Because now, what I'm going to move on to, so that's him. And now let's compare him to Lewis Page, who is 17 years old, by the way. Let's be honest with you. How many of you even knew who this guy was this time last season? Because I didn't.
None of us.
Jerry Monger we knew. Jake Evans we might have heard of a little bit, right? But no one was talking about this guy. So if you compare his overall score, he only gets 5.9, right? But the touch map is a lot more active. And you can see that at least with Lewis Page, right, he's involved in ground duels. He's involved in aerial duels. Now, ultimately, this was a classic example of when you throw a youngster into men's football and you can't deal with the physicality and you get bullied off the ball, that you look bad. Because that's what happened to Lewis Page, right? But if you look at his movement, if you look at his off-the-ball work and the positions that he took up, I've already shown you examples. He's telling you, put the ball there, I'll go there. We don't see Skip doing that. He is trying to get into the game and dictate things. So it is still a bit of a task, because I'll be honest with you, Doug. I think he was lucky to last an hour. I think he should have got hauled at half-time on his page. He was trying, but I'm just being honest. The physical approach that Charlton took caused him a lot of problems. But as you said at the start of the show, if you don't give him time, he's not going to be able to get used to it, right? So what do you want to say there?
I think you're right in the fact that he didn't do much on the ball, right? But I thought he was genuinely one of the best players off the ball. The relief he gave to the wingers, even if I thought Fatah was too disappointing with how he played him, like too little did he get the pass where he would then have the space to actually act. But I think this was, I don't want to say a good reality check, but a good beginning for him, from him to know that I'm doing many of the right things. I'm making the runs to be involved in the game. Like, I see a lot of positive traits here. It's very much the same that I think was the issue when Damsgaard came into the Premier League, because he came from a big knee injury, right, with surgery, and he was a lightweight guy like me. And in the physicality of the Premier League, Thomas Frank was like, he needs time. And he got more than a year's time, really, before he started doing anything there. And he was bulking up. Like, he's not big, of course, but so he can compete physically, so he doesn't get bullied off the ball. And just look at the season he had last season, right? And he looks phenomenal now in the Premier League. He looked great against Aston Villa too. And I feel like I'm seeing kind of the same with Lewis Page, where like, I see you're doing many of the right things, you're making the right runs, but you're being bullied off the ball too easily. So go to the gym, bulk up for half a season, you'll still get some appearances here and there, and I'll see you when you're willing, you're able to shield the ball and carry through on the right things you're already doing.
Wow. 10 out of 10. That's exactly what I would have said. Same thing. I think we said it in pre-season. It wasn't even the goals that he scored that was the impressive thing. It was his off-the-ball movement and his positioning, which is key for a midfielder, and getting into the right spaces at the right times. And so, yeah, there were examples of it. So here he is with Fatawu. He plays the ball with Fatawu, and you can see, look, he's immediately making the run into the half space. So now Fatawu, he can play the ball into here, or he can drive to the byline. Now, Abdul decides in this case to drive to the byline, and he tries to dink it past the defender. It went out for a corner here, but he almost beat him, right? But you're seeing that he is, by making that movement, Lewis Page, he's given Abdul that chance to isolate. And you remember, that's exactly what we said last week. We said that number 8, or the attacking midfielders, they need to help out the wingers to give them more space. And Lewis Page was doing that. And so that allowed Abdul Fatawi to be more effective in the game. Here's another example. So again, look, you can see, I like it. You can see his movement already, saying, look, play me the ball, play me the ball. That's where I want the ball. That's, again, the mark of a good midfielder. So Samari plays it into Lewis Page. Page ends up getting it here. And again, look, he's getting surrounded. Skip's even getting in his way. Classic Skip, although Skip is trying to run into this space. That's what he's trying to do. But he's been surrounded. But fair play, Lewis Page. He doesn't lose the ball in this example. He keeps it. And he manages to play the ball here back to Hamza. And we keep control of the game. We manage to keep going. So he's actually good. And so, yeah, I agree with Richard Barker. He says there's a good game for Page to be in. It might inspire him to push himself. Off the ball work is good. The foundation is there to improve. And I couldn't have said that better myself. So there's a lot of promising signs. But Duck is right. Like, he's still only 17, right? He's not fully developed, right? And he will get stronger and more physical, and he'll get used to what men's football is like. I would be very surprised if this guy doesn't end up being a very good player, very good box-to-box player that will have a good Premier League career, maybe even better than that. He's already in the England under-18 setup, so there's a lot very highly thought of. But yeah, if he wants to make an impact this season, he's going to have to learn that pretty quick. So yeah, do you even lift, bro? Lewis Page, you need to start lifting.
Yeah,
Just
don't
to
be
show
like me,
things.
man. Don't be like me.
Show some other parts of his game. This is another nice thing. He had a strike. This was with his weaker right foot, so it wasn't too good. But I like the fact that, look, we talked about his positioning, getting into the right place at the right time. He reacts to the ball first, so he's there to try and take a shot. And then later on, this was the best move. And it's a bit sad that he got hauled off immediately after this. But after going 1-0 up, he managed to drift his way into this half space. He got to the byline. He's left-footed, and he put in a half-decent cross, and this went out for a corner. So again, I'm seeing the things that an attacking 8 needs to be able to do in this kind of system. Now, this is interesting. I would not start him against Birmingham. Got to pick the right games to start him in. That's an interesting one, Fox Fanatics. I see what you're saying, but the thing is I would actually say, if you have a look at Birmingham's midfield, that maybe the one thing you could say about their midfield is that they lack physicality too, because they've got a Japanese guy and a Korean guy in their midfield. They're very good technically, but they're not going to really win against, probably even Charlton's midfield. What do you think about that, Doug? Or do you think he's right? Because I can definitely see the argument as well, though, which is that he's too inexperienced to start a game of that magnitude.
I mean, I think I'd rather see him start over Skip. I think that's probably the way I can put it. I think if Bilal is there and able to play Bilal in the number 10, no doubt about it. But I think he has all the good traits to be a very good midfielder for us in the future if he signs that deal and just needs to bulk up. And the championship will be tough for him in some games because he needs to bulk up and quickly. But as you say, the more open games, and in particular with the midfield they have there, where it will be less physical and more about technical ability, I think he could have a decent role. Question just is if he can handle the pressure. I think he can. He doesn't seem like one bothered much by it. And yeah.
Yeah, I think Manny's probably right on. I think that's where we might end up having Page and Monga work together. They worked quite well in pre-season too. But yeah, Josh, I agree with you. He's definitely going to be a player in a few years. Reminds me a bit Gerrard-esque of the runs he makes. Yeah, I actually think that's not that too crazy. And Danky goes, he thinks that Canus, Winks and Samari would be his midfield, which I think probably would be the best one to go for.
Yeah.
Right, let's move it on then. So Another person who's turning up in these shows every week for not particularly having a good performance and doing badly. I'm just going to show his stats today. So Jordan Ayew, he had another game to forget. This time it wasn't not cutting the ball back to Harry Winks, but you can see here again that problem with Jordan Ayew is that he lost the ball a lot here. And we're always frustrated when we see him play. He doesn't release the ball fast enough. Didn't win many ground duels. Very poor in the air, actually. Lost possession of Leicester 11 times.
His held that play was really good until he forgot to let it go, right? I thought that's the one thing I was like, yeah, you're holding up the ball well, mate, but just play it, please.
Yeah.
Which was really annoying.
And look, you can see his touch map. He's getting the ball more here as a striker than he is in these positions. So look, it's a false nine can work, right? But Jordan Ayew, he is not performing it well enough, right? He's got to work on his game a lot. His release, we've said enough. We've covered this a lot of times. I think, unfortunately, we're probably going to do that again later in the season. They'll also comment on Jordan Ayew. Now, the one thing I wanted to say is that there was maybe one small period where we did have a bit of control, and that was when these two were on the pitch at the same time. Now, actually, Ricardo wasn't playing in midfield. He was playing on the right-hand side where he came on for Hamza. But just to show you some examples, these two had good ratings, and I think they managed to calm the game down when they were on. Here was Harry Winks. It's not going to look like much, but he's on the ball here. Despite being under pressure, he turns, keeps the ball, and he plays it to Wout Faes, so getting us out of trouble. Of course, what does Wout Faes do? He just smashes it long. He's like, enough of that. I just want to defend this lead. Fair enough. And then later on, another moment which was good. He ended up actually winning the ball here on the sidelines. He ran past a few players. We were asking for him to run to the corner flag, but he actually comes in, cuts in with left foot, and he goes for a cross. I actually think he's trying to find this player on this side here. Which I think would have been Silko Thomas. Daka's there up top. But instead, Daka goes for a shot, and of course,
imagine if he did the dummy, just like we saw Slobbers like yesterday.
That's
right?
what he was supposed to do, but come on. Do you think the only time Patson Daka's ever doing a dummy duck is if he air kicks it and he misses it?
And he's done that all the time. Could he please just air kick it this time, man?
Yeah, or just score. He could do that. But you're right, that pass was definitely, that's why I highlighted, because if he'd have played it in there, that probably would have been 2-0. But Daka, not the fastest in terms of that football IQ. But look, that was good to see. And finally, though, despite having this expression of looking like someone who's a zombie, Buba Samare, I think we were very harsh on him in the match ratings, because looking back at him with his touch map and his stats, 2 key passes, and look at this, he won all of his aerial duels. He won a lot of his, 80% of his ground duels he won. Right, and he only lost possession 3 times compared to everyone else. And as we'll see in a minute, he obviously links up for the goal. So I still have major reservations about Buba Samare. For me, I don't think he should necessarily play in the base on that pivot. But of the midfielders, he was the only one that was anywhere close to being putting a passable shift in. What do you make of Buba in this game and overall?
I mean, he did all right, but we just know he can do so much more, right? And still we see the glimpses. Like you can see he has actions where he looks really good. I thought he was slowing the game down too much, in particular actually at our goal where, you want him to be a bit quicker with his action. For what we have right now, he definitely needs to start. No doubt about it in my mind. He's one of the best 2 out of the 3 options. I think it's very clear who the worst of the 3 is. And he could be so much more than what we're seeing here already. I think the big thing though is, while he does he did get into a few duels this time, not as many as we'd see an Ndidi do. And that's kind of why I'm not blown away, because it was a pretty okay game from him. But I know Ndidi would have won, 5-7 more ground duels and tackles, and that would have given us a lot more control in the game.
I actually agree with this statement from Josh. It says, if you had 2 workhorses next to him, he'd do a lot better. The guy doesn't work hard enough to be in the 2, in my opinion. I think that's pretty fair to say that. But what I'll say is that, yes, you just kind of commented on it there, which was that if we were going to have what Buba, the one thing he did as well, although he didn't release the ball pretty quick, is he was involved in that wonder goal. So Abdul Fattawi scored a great goal in pre-season. He actually hadn't scored in the championship yet. And Duck said on the show, he says, well, look, if it gets to maybe 7 or 8 games and he hasn't got a goal contribution, I might be concerned. But I'm not concerned right now. And he was right not to be concerned, because come off the man, come off the hour. Great game from him. You can see won a lot of duels, shots on target, 1 goal, a lot of accurate pop. Well, fairly accurate for a wing on his passes. Good game from him overall. Probably our best player. But this was the one time during the match where our lack of control, we actually did get some control and we actually did build from the back, which was something we were struggling with all game long due to that man-to-man marking. And this is what happened. So we start with Booba on the ball. Booba's going to play it into Vestergaard. Vestergaard then plays it out to Luke Thomas. You can see we're trying to manipulate this man-to-man press from Charlton. Thomas is going to play it back to Stolarczyk. Stolarczyk's got the ball here, and you can now see the movement. You see Yannick Vestergaard's going to run here to make space, and Sumari is going to kind of move here to make for that quick bounce pass from the goalkeeper. And fair play to Stolarczyk. What he does, he doesn't just play the ball immediately, he waits. Now, that was a very Enzo tactic, right? It's a bit risky, but the idea of waiting is that's going to open up that space for Yannick to move into. So now he can play that pass to Booba. Booba now has the bounce pass, which he can play into Vestergaard. So he plays that pass into Vestergaard. And now, look, because he's done that, there is now a gap through the lines if you can find a pass. Can Yannick find that pass? Well, this is where he's good. Yes, he can. Plays the ball. And now, if the ball comes in there, we're going to have two players on the attack. So he passes then. That's funny. It looks like it's going to Skip. But actually, Sumari just says, I'll have the ball, mate. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
classic.
Skip is very much just a Busquets is like standard. Yeah, pass it through. That's me.
Yeah.
I did my shift, guys. I did my shift.
Well, he did do his job. And to be fair, if the ball would have come directly to his feet, maybe he could have done this. But fair play to Booba. It is dangerous. I'm not going to lie that. Of course, it's dangerous. It's the most dangerous pass in football, as Kate would say. But here's when you can see where it can work. Right, so the ball comes to Booba. And now that finally gives us a chance to go back to front and attack. So Boo's going to go driving up the field. And yes, this is exactly what Duck was saying. So he gets to this position and we're like, go, 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 go. And you can see he was already sort of either thinking, oh, I've run enough now. I'm going to turn back and pass. And he obviously really wanted to make that pass to Hamza. But I do wonder, you can see Marty. That's Nathan Jones. So you got Marty here in the touchline. And I wonder if Marty's like, play the ball to Abdul. Because finally, he does recognize that the pass is on, plays it into Fatawu. And from that point on, it's the Fatawu show, isn't it? It's time for some fast switch fibers. Here he is on the wing. And there's not really much on, but he drives at his man, one-on-one, cuts in.
It's a fucking insane
The Leicester
goal,
Robin.
The finish
And
is
just look at this. That's where he is when he's having the shot. Not an easy shot at all. The XG here has got to be pretty small.
I kind of want to check what the XG is actually, because it has to be minuscule. I think like 0.2, 0.02, 0.03. It is an unbelievably hard angle to hit that in.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, that goes in, and yeah, boom, mic drop Abdul, and it goes into the back of the net.
0.02 XG is what my app has it as. That is
Wow.
unbelievable.
That's outrageous. And so that's maybe the one flaw. Yeah, is that's really good football to play the ball back to front to generate this opportunity. But even then, it's not a high XG opportunity. And it's like you'd have to really give your winger 10 of those a match to maybe even hope that he can score. But that's what it is. So he ends up scoring the goal, and that's for 1-0. But I will just say there was unfortunately one blot on his copybook, although great dance, I've got to say. And the blot on his copybook was this. Later in the game, we're 1-0 up, and the ball comes to him here. He's got a man on him, but he's got plenty of space, and you're expecting him to just drive up the line. And I don't know what he does here, but he dawdles on the ball, gets caught on it, and then all of a sudden we're in trouble. So Charlton get the ball, he comes back, comes their number 10, and go for a shot. And luckily for us, Okoli bodies on the line, puts in the block, and that's actually a great block from Okoli.
Celebrated like a goal as well, which is very nice to see.
Yeah, and Fox Fanatics, I totally agree with you. I loved Yannick going crazy at Abdul after this. That's what you've got to do as an experienced heads, because again, you're looking back, it's not like an instance where he's just unlucky. This is just foolishness, especially with someone of his pace. Right? Yeah, he actually
could
got
definitely
subbed
buy
immediately
so
after
much
this.
time running down and maybe even create a chance himself. I think he believes he can, physically just hold it up and then pass it to someone, but he very quickly gets dispossessed.
Yeah.
Very weird
Well,
decision.
like I said, he got subbed off after that, so maybe you could say he's tired or he's still coming back from his injury. But yeah, that was the one sort of thing, which is kind of foolish. So moving on. So yeah, the other thing we talked about was the physical battle. And this is how physical it was. You might remember this incident from halfway through. So here's Bouba Samari again. He's driving up the field, and this again would have started
as well, man.
Yeah, would have started a counter break. And he actually was being pulled here, and he moves all the way up. And only at this point, then the ref whistle. Very annoying. We know that refs in this division aren't particularly good. But that's just to show you that we're going to have to get used to it. I think teams are way more physical against us this time around than they were a few seasons ago. I think they recognise that as an obvious weakness of the Leicester team, and they'd be right. We're going to have to learn about that in the Championship. But just to say that someone who did do well in a physical battle, I've got to say, was Hamza Chowdhury. So he ended up getting into the team of the week. And I think one of the major reasons why is that 3 clearances, 2 blocked shots, 2 total tackles, ground duels, pretty good with the aerial duels. You can also see he got up and down all game long. So whilst I definitely showed that he, in terms of his passing ability, it was poor. We know that with Hamza. It does look like that stint with Sheffield United has turned him into a pretty decent right back. It'll be interesting to see who plays that out of him and Ricardo, because you could put Ricardo into midfield. But defensively, and I haven't really got a slide to kind of prove this, but what I'm kind of saying is I think one of the nice things you mentioned at the top of the show, Duck, was that it was actually good to see the fact that the team looked like they cared. They were actually putting their bodies on the lines to try and win tackles and challenges. We were pretty good against corners. I'm not sure if we've conceded off a corner yet this season or not, but I think we've looked overall pretty good on them, given how many we've faced of both those and long balls. So pretty decent from a defensive point of view from Hamza. Attacking side, more work to be done. But the man of the match in this game, for me, it wasn't Abdul Fattah. It was the Pole. Now,
he was brilliant.
He was. And let's see, he had a clanger last week. We called him out for it. So that's a really good mark of a player. If after drops a bad performance, is can they come back from it? And Jakob was great in this match. So one thing that I really liked about him, and I'd actually say this is probably the one thing he's better at, Madstand. He's not as good in terms of distribution, but I will say he commands his box a lot better. Hermansen's getting bullied in the Premier League right now. He's gonna have to learn pretty quickly, because otherwise he's gonna get dropped. But here you can see Charlton got a free kick. So it's not even a corner. So they're in a much better position to put a good cross in. But Jakob comes through everyone, grabs it, despite being manhandled under pressure. No problems. He gets 2 hands on it. Very good to see. He also produces absolutely outrageous save. If a guy called Coventry scored against us, that would have been very, very irritating. But this is Connor Coventry for Charlton. Has an outrageous dip from 25 yards out. It's a great hit, you've got to say. It was going in, it was swerving all the way. But just look at this, the slow-mo. Look at that. That's athleticism. That's great diving. He gets a really strong hand on it. That was a brilliant save. And then later on, I actually think this was the best of the lot. Because here, he gets from here down to stop this from going in and smother it. When that's just a tap-in. So for a big man to get down that low, that saved a surefire goal. So absolutely sensational from Stolarczyk. I showed you he was involved in the build-up for the goal as well. It was his patience to wait for the man to come to him before playing that bounce pass into Buba that set up the goal. Brilliant performance all round. Yeah, absolutely agree. That save was a beauty. So top goalkeeping, and I think we were great. That we haven't lost anything at all. I think that's the best thing you could say. It's the same when Mads came in for the first time. It was never an issue, was it? There was never a complaint about the goalkeeper. He just slotted in like he'd been there all his life. And Stolarczyk the same. It's just you wouldn't have known. He could have played 200 games for Leicester. You'd think, yeah, he probably has. Great stuff from him. And the final point that I wanted to make in this game then was transition. So this was the big reason why we struggled so badly against Preston North End last week. And I just want to give you an example. So if your team's playing like this, Doug, where do you think you might have some problems?
In attack, right? I mean, we're not very far forward on the pitch, are we? But
think about it from a defensive point of view. Where might you have some issues? Yeah.
I mean, we have a very high line.
We have a very high line, and that high line is a very slow Yannick Vestergaard, a sort of
Luke
not
Thomas.
The best in terms of confidence, Luke Thomas, and you got Okoli over here. So this, I probably shouldn't have saved this right till the end, but for me, this was the massive difference, that the tweak that Marty made. So compare that to Charlton, and what you can see here is that, look, this is how much more protection he gave that back four. He's like, okay, and to be fair, this is actually good from a managerial perspective, because it's being stubborn and is realizing that there's an obvious flaw in your system. And I said to you last week that I do not want to see Yannick Vestergaard and Luke Thomas starting again, because we're just going to get caught out. But this time round, by playing a deeper line, we're playing 2 men back at all times. He's got some positional support in Caleb Okoli. Having the midfield pivot drop a little bit deeper, it meant that you're more compact and it gives you more of a chance on transition. You can also see what's interesting is in the previous game, we were attacking much more with Mavadidi. I'm guessing we thought we could exploit their right back, but it didn't work out too well. Or maybe it's just the fact that Thierry Small did such a good job on Abdul Fattah that he didn't manage to attack so much. Whereas in this game, you can see that Abdul Fattah is the major attacking threat. I think you did just say it, though. The issue is that in both of these games, look, a false 9 is a false 9, right? It is Firmino in the Championship, except with 1% of the skill, right? And that's an issue. But I'm going to show you in a little bit. I've got some ideas on what we could do to tweak it, because this is not particularly... Well, look, he fixed one problem. I think we look better defensively, other than through sort of like long balls in a physical battle. But we didn't have control in this game either. So, you know, look, you've got to give a manager quite a few games, and he still doesn't know what his final squad is. No El Kanous in this game either, who obviously was in there last time round. That is a concern. But here was the match momentum. And look, you can just see that we were pretty lucky, right? It was, I mean, look at that. You can see that the goal scored when we didn't have any momentum. So it's completely against the run of play. And so, yeah, I thought I'd bring this up. This was, of course, most annoying bell end in the Championship, Nathan Jones. What did he have to say? He says, he described the referee's decision to disallow Lloyd Jones' goal as a Hans Christian Andersen fairy. So I'm literally doing this right now. The wanker sign at Nathan Jones, even just a picture of him. And he also said, it's a 1 in a million strike to win the game for them. Yada, yada, yada. Super salty he was.
It is incredibly salty, especially because what I don't get about the goal, it's a foul, plus the referee blows before the other lead. Like, the goal wasn't disallowed. There was no goal. There was a free kick given. Like,
and that's why,
you didn't get a goal
I haven't
mate.
even put it in the analysis, because there's nothing to analyze, right?
Like, what do
there
you
are
want us to
chances
say?
with these. Yeah.
And they could have definitely scored from other corners, legitimately, right? We had a great save from Jakub just before we scored, where he got down on the line as well, which you didn't actually include, which I thought was a brilliant save. And when you know Abdul Fattah, you know that's not a 1 in a million strike. That's like a 1 in a 30, 1 in a 50 strike, right? Like, he does have that in his locker, and has done so, I want to say, semi-regular, right? It's part of his trademark. You know he can cut inside and shoot. So you should just tell your players to make sure he isn't allowed to do that. It's like having Salah score a great cut inside and shoot goal, or Robin, where you're like, I mean, yeah, he can do that. It's not a 1 in a million strike from them, because it's in their locker. You need to manage against that and make sure they don't get the chance to do it.
Exactly. So moving on then to what we think. So this is kind of my summary, right? Still, regardless of the Nathan Jones result, it was a poor performance, and we were very lucky to get anything out of.
That's also true.
To be honest, we didn't deserve even 1 point, yet alone all 3. So that's kind of crazy that we have ended up stealing it. A proper kind of shit housing here. Now, the major concern is this. Charlton's man-for-man press completely threw us off our game. So that is... I don't know if Birmingham are going to do it, but you can bet that Oxford, the game afterwards, you'd be stupid not to try it against Leicester right now. So we're going to have to deal with that. Now, Marty has mentioned that several times that he's come against teams that played man-to-man. So there are plenty of solutions, but he's going to have to work on it. But that said, I will give him credit for one thing, which is the structural changes to make us this vulnerable in transition. We never looked vulnerable in transition the entire game, which was pretty good. But we have a real inability to build from the back or through the lines. And so here's my key thing, right? If you look at that team, Luke Thomas, not the best on the ball. That's why Enzo didn't have him in the team. Caleb Okoli, I'm telling you right now, Enzo Maresca would not sign or play Caleb Okoli. Not good enough on the ball. Hamza Chowdhury, Enzo did play him at times as part of a midfield pivot, but not first choice. Skip. Page, unproven. My point is, Doug, is that I'm not sure we should actually be playing this system right now. Okay, it's not really working. And so my kind of key thing is, I think without signings, I'm expecting a tough season, and I don't really want to see a repeat of this kind of game where you look at it and you're getting lucky because of quality and not because you deserve to win. That's what I want to see the manager fix. So yeah, go.
I to some extent agree, because I do not think Luke Thomas is really capable of it. I think Caleb Okoli has to be included as little as possible in that formation. But luckily, let's see. Like, to me, it's very much in a week's time when the window's over, you and I can have a conversation about if we can look to stick with the system. Because if Ricardo is starting this game, if Winks is still here next week and is starting this game, if Bilal is still here and starting next game, let's just say VK comes back. He's a bit better on the ball than Luke Thomas. That's something. That's
Danish glazing.
I want to say that's the smallest of the three. I think the big one, the big three I want to get in is if Bilal, Winks stay, you get Ricardo back from injury. You can even look to maybe start Wout fast if he doesn't go, right?
Yeah.
Like then all of a sudden you've got the team who's proven they can play the style and definitely has the technical.
Keep that
package
thought
to
in
do
your
so.
mind because you basically answered the question. We'll come to that in a moment. So I've got two possible solutions. One solution, it's funny that we talked about Roberto Firmino in the Championship because it was this. It was a Liverpool classic 4-3-3. Now, this system, you had a false nine, which is what Jordan Ayew is doing. You had two exceptional wingers. I think we've got a lot of good wingers in this team, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is maybe the rest of the positions, right? Because this team had a really energetic midfield, right? Three shuttlers, as Jurgen Klopp used to call them, who had massive stamina and could run all day. Samare cannot run all day. Skip, you don't even notice he's there. Page, too young. So that might be a problem. And this team also relied heavily on the fullbacks. That would obviously be Trent rather than Gomez. He could only come in for injuries. But Robertson and Trent had amazing delivery. They could join the attack. So maybe you could try a Timu version, but I don't really think it would work. So the other solution you could possibly go for, and Duck's already called it out, is a solution that we know already works. This was Enzo's 3-2-4-1. And the funny thing about this is that Harry Winks, still at Leicester. Ricardo Pereira, still at Leicester. Yannick Vestergaard, still at Leicester. Wout Faes, still at Leicester. Lol indeed. So, yes, I think that if this was me, I would go back. Because I said to you that we don't have any control in the games. And the thing is that if you put these four in the team, you will immediately have control. You might still lack in other places. You still might not generate that many chances. You might not hit the attacking eights. The false nine might still be a problem. But at least you'd get going. Because that was a problem for me. I don't think we even got going in this game against Charlton. And I think we struggled even against Preston.
We didn't have that good spell of play for 20 minutes, right? Where, we got on top, we dominated. We should have been scoring 2-3 goals. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think it's
so. Ricardo, when he came on, he didn't invert. He played more on the right hand side. If you want to look at his touch map, but yeah, that would be my solution at least to begin with. And then you can take it from there. Give yourself that basic foundation to build from, and then you can tweak it there on. That's interesting just to see this. Lox is reporting that Leicester City have tabled an €8 million offer for Schalke striker.
We're not getting. We're not paying 8 million for anyone right now.
No, but it could be 6. It could be at the end of the season. 16 goals last season.
We could be doing the deal now. I'll pay you 1 million now. You'll get 1 million for 8 years. Get the rest of your money in 2032. Let's keep an eye on that one. You never know. You never know. But I'm just going to move on then while we wrap up the show with the Championship. So here were the results. Now this was interesting because actually the weekend went pretty damn good for us. Because here we can see, the big shocks were Preston. Oh my goodness. Preston. Let's give some credit to Preston. They're not relegation favourites. I mean,
no way.
At least not at home. They make that into a fortress. They're tough to play against. I think.
Well, do you know what? There's another clip of Thierry Small in that game, and he was being an absolute don. That is the signing of the season.
Yeah, he was great again, I guess.
Sure.
I just want to quickly say, I think many of the negativities around Preston North End stemmed from the end last season, right? They were shocking towards the end. So obviously, same manager. Many thought Paul Heckingbottom would be the first to go, but it's clear getting his players in was how many have they made? 10 signings. Obviously, changes quite a lot. That's almost fully new team, and credit to them. Credit to many teams who were expected lower down. Not many had Stoke high up as well.
That's exactly it. So they've obviously got the guy for the ex Coventry manager
Mark
is
Robbins,
there, man. Yes, Mark Robbins. That's what I was looking for, and that's so. Big. They lost, and not only did they lose, they lost at home. So that was huge. Coventry, obviously, an outrageous result. They were 7-0 up before Richard Kone got his debut goal.
Julian Stefano QPR. My QPR mate's not having the greatest weekend, eh?
Yeah. But, I mean, to be fair, I'll come back to that in a second. But if we look at the table, obviously still very early. But, the interesting thing is that all three of the parachute teams, Ipswich haven't won a game yet. It's really frustrating, that Preston game, because for me, we should be on 9 points now.
We could definitely have been on 9 points. Not performance-wise, but we should be based on the strength of our position. Yeah,
I will say that based on our performance...
We're happy with 6 points. We are happy.
Yeah, I would agree. I think based on our performances, we did not actually deserve to be this high up in the table. But we're 1 point out of the playoffs, so there you go. That's getting up there, quite close. Stokes there. And just to bring in these fixtures then. So look, the big one is this Friday, guys. Join Locks for the watch along. We'll be in there as well. Huge game against Birmingham. I'm still looking forward to it, although I'm going to be honest with you, I am nervous because we've not looked particularly good so far this season. But maybe it'll be the perfect game. Yeah, could be the game to get us going. I'll be very interested to see if Bilal's still around if he plays. We'll see. And then it's the international break, so we're taking a bit of a break. But then you've got Oxford.
Much
and then
needed, might I add. I think that international break is very, very good for us, right? Get a few more weeks in, just drill what you want through the passing, the technical, because how many do we realistically have leaving us? Yannick Vestergaard is going with the national team. Is that, I don't know who else has been called up. Jakub Stelasic, haven't heard him being called up. So like, not many other players, probably like Patson Daka and of course Abdul Fatawu, maybe Jordan Ayew too, but like a lot of the players who I think will benefit much from this game time or this extra practice time.
And this is exactly what Fossab was saying, and it's true. Remember, we were better every time after the international break under Enzo. And I also think the biggest thing is more that as soon as it's 1st of September and you know what the squad is, will massively improve. And Ethan's asking, he's saying, any changes for the starting lineup for Brum? And my personal opinion is I think even if they're going, he will start the best team against Brum. So I think he will start. I think he'll start Harry Winks, Ricardo, FaZe, Bilal.
I'll say for Ricardo, though, it does depend on his injury because I'm expecting Ricardo to stay. He's not leaving. So, like, no reason to throw him in the deep end if he doesn't feel comfortable. I think he will definitely play that game for sure.
Yeah.
At the 45, or he'll start for 60, get taken off, right? Because he can't carry on anymore. Hopefully he can play 90 because just look at the quality when he came on, man. What a player.
Absolutely. Well, look, on that, let's leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for joining. That's been Blue Tinted Glasses. Look at that. West Ham are back in talks at Botafogo for keeper John Victor. No refunds, unfortunately, guys. No refunds. So, yeah, thank you very much. That was the game. That was the match analysis. Join us for Fox's Den tomorrow. And we'll also have, of course, the watch along at 7. Well, it's 8 o'clock kickoff. So I guess we'll probably be live somewhere between 7:30. We look forward to that one. That's going to be the first serious test. Otherwise, keep it locked on to Blue Tinted Glasses. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. Over 200 grand has been paid out to players so far by taking sports betting, football and bingo and combining them into one amazing app. Make sure to get your bingo card for any Leicester City game in the upcoming season. Click that link in the description or via the QR code on screen.